Welcome back to the How to Relate podcast. My name is Brittany, and last week I did a workshop called Connected Couples. It's a communication workshop. A lot of people asked me if I would record it, and the answer is I did record the workshop, but I wanted to make it into an episode, just honestly for a little bit of a cleaner audio experience. So the topic is going to be around how communication is seen as a problem. And a lot of couples, even ChatGPT will say that communication is the number one issue that couples seek couples counseling for. But I had a supervisor way back in 2017 say that communication is a symptom of the problem. And I think about this and how we see communication. We can feel what it's like to have tension and communication goes sideways. But there's a lot happening underneath for both the individuals and the relational space for communication to be off. So the premise of this workshop was to get what's underneath communication as a problem and to balance individuality and connection. So if you are watching this, you'll be able to see the presentation. And if I am in your ears, I will be talking through each of these points very thoroughly. But just so you know, I am sort of going off a presentation. So if it sounds like that I'm doing that, that's exactly what's happening. All right. So the first slide is communication problems, the symptom, not the problem. And I want to go over 4 parts in classic family therapy. These 4 topics are boundaries, emotional regulation, roles, and communication. Boundaries. Boundaries is where one ends and another begins, where one can express individuality and another can express individuality. There is the relational space in between. But the clearer we can have boundaries or more clarity around boundaries that we have, the more that we're able to protect that relational space because we know where one begins and another ends. To put it into another context, I see a lot of this around work stress. If work stress is bleeding into a home, I can't sleep because of this project that I'm working on, then that's a boundary where it's not ending and beginning. It's like chronically there. When you think of boundaries, you can think of it in all aspects of your life of where does this end and where does this begin? Where does my workday end and my home life begin? Where do I end and where do my emotions come into play versus where my partner's emotions come into play, my child's emotions come into play, my friend's emotions come into play. So if you can start to think of boundaries and having that clear delineation, then you can see yourself as separate and be able to provide more empathy and understanding towards others. That is a primary function of boundaries. Okay, emotional regulation. That is the ability to take full accountability for your emotional well-being. How are you eating, sleeping? Are you getting sunlight, movement, things you enjoy? Any sort of ways that you find joy or just basic self-care? And how do you do with noticing you are dysregulated to be able to say, actually, I realized that that comment I just made wasn't really about you. That was about something that happened earlier. Or I recognize that this is actually a pain point that I have from way back when, and it's coming up now. And I can regulate around it to be able to invite you in to talk about it. Then there are roles. Roles are I'm the one who X, insert whatever role in the relationship. I'm the one who's more adventurous. I'm the one who's more of the homebody. I'm the one who's more social. I'm the one who's more introverted. I'm the one who is more organized. I'm the one who's more messy. However, the roles start to play out. Oftentimes in couple dynamics, one person will take a side of a role that both people might have. So we'll get into this in a second, but if we're straddling the balance of security and exploration, and one is more of the I'm the homebody, and another is more I'm the explorer, so we have those innate needs in all of us. But the dyad in the couple relationship will take these roles and almost like apply them individually rather than looking at it as we have these both in ourselves. It's almost like that those roles get delegated out into the relational space by saying, I'm the one who's more secure and I'm the one who's more adventurous. Communication. So, communication is a combination of a few things: relationship culture, norms, values. So when you think of your relationship culture, what is it like at home? What is it like when you're talking about the household chores that need to be done? What is it like when you're talking about the holidays? What is it like when you're planning a trip? When you think about your relationship culture, and there are your norms and values that are going to be part of this culture. And it will come out in communication as well. So when we're communicating not just our sides of things, we're also communicating it in a space that has culture in it. That can exist individually, relationally, in home life, in society. And we sort of tend to adapt to each culture, right? But if you take a moment to think about what is the relationship culture that we have within our relationship? And what are the norms and values that we've adopted? What are the norms and values that have been bestowed on us? What are the norms and values that we want to change or aspire to? So it's thinking about how our relationship encompasses so many parts of ourselves, our relationships outside of our romantic partner relationship, of society, all the things. How are you in the micro, in this dyad, also being impacted by all the things that are happening around you? And how are all the things around you maybe influencing those norms and values? Okay. Attachment theory, straddling basic human needs. We're going to go back to those two needs for security and exploration. Quick recap on the 4 attachment styles. There's anxious, avoidant, secure, and disorganized. And again, these attachment strategies can change and evolve based in the relationship you're in. These are influenced by our childhood and our parent dynamics, our romantic partner experiences, our self-esteem, and our sense of self. So if we have felt insecure in the past, and maybe that comes out as anxious in the way that I am maybe really worried that someone's going to leave me. I'm worried about this abandonment wound. I'm worried that someone might walk away when I'm having a tough time. And then to me, that just says that I'm unlovable and I don't know how to handle that. So then I keep pursuing and maybe I criticize and maybe I lash out and maybe I'm really just looking for love, but don't know how to pull that person in. That's an example of an anxious attachment style that also does not have like a high emotional regulation around it. Then there's the avoidant attachment style. Again, because someone has the avoidant tendency doesn't mean that they're not anxious. They could be silently preoccupied and their relationship is running in the background. It's just that because we're in this dyad, it's that one person takes one side and another person takes another. But really, a person who's avoidant can also be experiencing anxiety as well. It's that when they experience emotions, they go inward and they might withdraw and they might feel overwhelmed very easily. And this is a spectrum. And you might find yourselves playing both sides of this. I think often in a secure relationship, we are actually playing both sides of this because when we're in conflict, there is going to be someone who's going, oh my gosh, I'm so anxious. I feel like we're planning this trip and I'm so concerned about how everything's going to go. And then another person kind of coming in and going, well, why are you so worried? What's the problem? You have everything booked, So it could be that you start to experience this in ways, even in a secure relationship, around different topics. We all have feelings around lots of factors in life. It's about how we talk about it and how we use the relationship to feel secure with one another, to be able to talk about our emotions vulnerably, openly, and with boundaries. The influences around the parent-child dynamic. Childhood does play a part in our attachment strategies and romantic partnerships, but in the book Attached, there's actually some mixed review on how much of a role it plays because we also experience romantic relationships. We experience childhood. We experience our first crush, or we experience how to navigate the dating world in all different ways. So there's also things that happen outside of the family dynamic or outside of the parent-child relationship that can build secure or insecure relationships. It's just that our romantic partnerships oftentimes mirror the relationship that we have with our parents as children. And that can play a role. Self-esteem is I'm able to like myself enough to hold myself accountable. That there is an internal sense of I can be wrong about things. I might hurt people. It might not be intentional, or even if it is, it's not who I want to be. And I'm able to take ownership of that, to change it, to apologize for it wholeheartedly, to start to make amends. So self-esteem matters a lot. Even in the attachment realm, the anxious attachment style is actually correlated with low self-esteem. And here's how I see it is that when I feel anxious about my own lovability, I'm looking for it from another person. If I feel anxious about dating and really, really want a relationship and it feels like it doesn't work out every time, and I get really, really down on myself and I feel the highs and lows really hard, it may be that there is this inner part getting back to being like the 5-year-old version of you that's going, I just really want to feel loved. And every time this doesn't work out, it feels like it takes a hit on my self-esteem. It feels like it takes a hit on how much I can like myself if these other people don't like me. That's how that shows up in our attachment styles. So, sense of self, we're going to get more into this. Sense of self is being able to hold your own individuality, your hobbies, your interests, your sense of the world while being in a relationship that does adapt to the relationship culture, that does adapt to the relational space, that makes someone else's needs matter and what they have going on matter. And it's being able to toggle the two. That there is that need for sense of self and that sense of individuality to be able to balance out the dynamic relationally by making the other person matter as well. Okay, this is probably one of my favorite tools to use in relational work. This is called the infinity loop, and emotionally focused therapy uses this a lot. I think all modalities pretty much use this. So I'm going to go over what this is. And if you are listening, you can Google infinity loop and you'll be able to see the exact diagram that I am talking about. So the infinity loop is just that. It's an infinity loop that goes back and forth. And you can imagine or see the dotted line that is down the center. So at the top, There's an event that creates insecurity and connection. Then there's the attachment strategy and how you protect yourself from this insecure connection. There is how you make meaning of it and what's happening, the reactive emotion. And then I want you to imagine a dotted line going through this infinity loop. And underneath are vulnerable emotions. It can be sad, scared, hurt, even joy can feel underneath of this. And granted, I know we're talking about conflict, but joy can also be a vulnerable emotion. And then it hits on our needs to feel secure, to matter, to feel loved, to feel in connection. The top part is often what you see. So we can see how someone protects themselves when in conflict. Then we're making sense of what's happening. And we can often see the reactive emotion. Making sense of what's happening is an imperative part of changing this dynamic. So let's say that there's a concert that someone wants to go to, and they're super excited about it. It's like their favorite band as a teenager, and they're coming back around and they're stoked. And they say to their partner, hey, I would love to go to this concert. And the partner says, why? And like, it's nostalgic. I mean, come on, like this was what, life felt like as a teenager, and it got me through hard times and I really enjoy it. And their partner looks at them like, okay, you can go. I'm not interested. That's that. So partner A, who is super excited about the concert, might go, oh, okay, fine. And now I'm instead of saying I'm upset, I'm going to use a passive aggressive comment. That might be the strategy and how they protect themselves. Let's say the meaning that they make of what's happening is, of course, you're never interested in what I'm interested in. You're only interested in yourself. And actually, I don't even like watching the movies that you like to watch, but I do it anyway because I care about you. And I'm always the one putting effort into this relationship. And the story starts to go that what the meaning that they're making of what's happening often end up in character assassinations about the other person. It's typically, you are this person, and that's how I see you. Then there's a reactive emotion, and that can feel helpless, rage, anxiety. Again, sad, scare, hurt are the vulnerable emotions underneath. Let's say that the person feels anger or experiences anger, and then they start slamming things around the kitchen. And the other person notices, and like, what is going on with you? Why are you so upset? Okay. So their defense strategy, so their attachment strategy and how they protect themselves is to defend. Why are you so upset? I did nothing wrong. So then they're in the defense mode. They're making sense of what's happening by going, this always happens. It's always blowing things out of proportion. I can't believe that we're here. Their reactive emotion might also be anxious. It might be feeling helpless because they feel like they can't do anything to help the person or help the situation or even help themselves. So you can see how this plays out. And this is what you see. To get into the heartfelt conversations to break out of this dynamic is going to take space and emotional regulation to be able to talk about it. When we are in conflict, oftentimes, probably most of us know what this is like. We're in conflict and then it escalates, and then we end up saying things that we don't mean. And then we feel so bad. And we recognize that the other person and ourselves are so hurt. And it feels like that there's no turning back. Or it feels like that turning back takes so much work. So keeping the vulnerable emotions in mind help to know that what you're seeing is actually someone who is feeling really hurt already. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm just going to assume that you're not a person who's going to want to kick someone while they're down and hurt. And I think that taking space and taking what you need in a moment to reflect on what just happened, to be able to come back and say, hey, I recognize what I said. I was feeling really hurt when you said you want to go to the concert with me because I really wanted to share that experience with you. And I know that it's hitting on, like, I want to feel like my interests matter to you too. The other person can say, hey, I was actually really afraid because I recognized that what I said wasn't great. And I saw how upset you were. And I want to be there for you. I want us to feel that connection. And then you can go into what can we do to make this work, right? Because if you can get into understanding it with one another, it's going, okay, we can talk about our needs. We can express what they are and how to come together so that we can serve one another in having those needs be met most of the time in a romantic partnership. So that's an example of how this infinity loop goes. It's balancing me and we. Okay. Again, to recap, the two basic needs, security and exploration. I'm going to talk about the process of individuation and the process of differentiation. Individuation is sense of self. Carl Jung talks a lot about this. Individuation is almost like going towards self-actualization, to take Maslow into this too. It's finding own sense of purpose in life, even own interests, hobbies, what goals are at work. That's a sense of individuation. That's for the self. And then there's a sense of differentiation, which is deepening the appreciation of differences in one another. So if, for example, if someone is in a relationship and their partner loves to play tennis and they would rather not and do almost anything else and play tennis, then it's okay. You can play tennis and you can come back and I can go do my thing and we can be cool with this, right? That is a sense of, okay, you have your interests, I have mine. It's pretty basic. Here's where I notice it gets tricky. When someone is clinging to work for a sense of self, it could be another self-serving goal that becomes maybe obsessive, or I need this to feel okay in myself, then that is where it becomes I'm leaning more into this thing and attaching to this thing than I am in myself and in my relationship. Differentiation doesn't happen when someone is attaching to another thing. It pulls the other person into a state of feeling insecure in the relationship. You keep thinking that you need to make more money. You keep clinging to work for a sense of purpose or security. And I notice that you're miserable and it's bleeding into the space. And when you're miserable, I'm upset or I'm anxious or I can't fix it. Then I'm picking up the slack. So it starts to become that we're no longer differentiated because when you're clinging to this thing and it's an attachment fracture and the couple dynamic, it pulls the other person in to want to go, okay, well, what are we going to do about work? I can't see you with space because you're so ingrained in what your job is that now I'm looking for a sense of security here. And what happens is they either try and fix it or they detach. So differentiation is the idea that you can each hold your sense of individuality and that those individual differences actually create space for desire. It creates space for curiosity. It creates space to get to know one another in a unique way. And you're able to then also separate you're having a feeling and I can stay steady. If you're upset about a conversation that you had with your mom, I can listen to you and I can stay steady. Differentiation allows for a balance in having one person feel into whatever hard feelings they're experiencing and the other person to be able to stand their ground and actually provide empathy and understanding rather than getting pulled in. Oh my gosh, how could they have said that? Now we need to fix it. Now we need to, and then they jump in, and then it's no longer that there's differentiation. It's being able to stand the ground and go, this is actually about you. I don't need to insert myself. Then there is the relational space. Stan Tacton calls it the couple bubble, which is being on the same side. If you think of conflict, it's one person versus another. If you can reframe it to how can we be on the same side? If I'm your teammate, I want to be able to pass you the ball. It's no longer seeing, let's say, that concert example as the concert, as something that's dividing the two people. When you get into the core needs, you get to a deeper understanding that you're on the same side because what you both want is a sense of emotional connection. What you both want is a sense of love and security. So if you can think about how to best protect your relational space and be on the same team, then you'll be able to create that secure connection. Individuation happens easier, differentiation happens easier, and the relational space stays sacred. Again, life happens. This isn't going to be the all the time thing, but if you can maybe reframe it for yourself in a way that is, okay, we're on the same side, we're on the same team. I want to get to know you without inserting myself into your emotions, into your life, into your space that is about you. And I want you to be able to do the same for me. Couple therapist Ellen Bader says that the more that a couple can practice differentiation, the less conflict there will be. Okay. Communication strategies. Timing. Is the moment right? Okay. There might be topics that you don't want to bring up in front of children. There might be topics you don't want to bring up in front of friends or family. There are going to be times that certain topics don't get brought up. And then some of them are obvious, set and setting. Some of them might be, hey, I really want to talk about what we're doing about Christmas. What do you think? Is now a good time? The other person might say, I just got off the phone with my mom. It's going to be a lot. Can we talk about this later tonight? So ask about timing. Is right now a good time? It's up to the person to say yes or no, and when a good time would be. No one likes to be left on red. So think about like just going, okay, I don't want to leave this other person in their anxiety about whatever they want to talk about. Let's say, okay, let's talk about later tonight. Let's talk about tomorrow. but set a time for you to talk about it. Use I statements. And I feel like you is not an I statement. As soon as you add you, it is about the other person. It no longer stays about you. And then typically whatever comes next is a criticism in some way, shape, or form. I feel upset. I feel scared. I feel off. Doesn't even have to be an exact emotion, but it is, can you talk about yourself? Again, keeping that sense of individuation. Can you talk about yourself and your emotions and your feelings? I'm not just talking about your day, not just talking about your interests, not just talking about monopolizing the conversation, but yourself in a way that is genuine and deep, so that your partner or your significant other can hear you, understand you, and attach to you. 2 phrases I love, if we're thinking about that infinity loop and how we make meaning of what's happening, and oftentimes it's a character assassination on the other person, it can be the thought I'm having is, or the story I'm telling myself is. The story I'm telling myself is that you're not interested in my interests and that you don't care about me. That's the story I'm telling myself. The story I'm telling myself is you always need me to be there whenever you want to do something. The story that I'm telling myself is that it's always about you and your interests and it's never about mine. Ask for the other person to share their piece. Like, I want to know what's happening for you. This is a story I'm telling myself and I'm offering you to make an edit. Sender responsibility. Is what you have to say clear, honest, necessary, and kind? Even in hard conversations, you can still be kind, because that is being caring towards your partner, even when it's a really hard conversation. Active listening. Be genuinely curious. Use the phrases, tell me more about ... What I'm hearing you say is ... And it probes the other person to say more about what it is that they're interested in. The more that you can do that and show curiosity, the more that you get to also feel passionate towards one another. Most people find it really attractive when someone is super passionate and they're talking about the thing that they're passionate about and they get to see them light up. So get to see each other light up, because that is also a gift. Okay, quick recap. All right, so we have boundaries, emotional regulation, roles, and communication. Boundaries, where one ends and another begins. Emotional regulation, how are you doing within yourself and what do you need to make this hard conversation go well? Notice your roles. I'm the one who X, you're the one who Y. And notice if you can switch up the roles. If I'm the one who's always planning the date, maybe the other person says, hey, actually, I'm going to be the one who plans. And communication. Examine your values, norms, and relationship culture and how you talk to one another. We're always struggling 2 basic needs, security and exploration. Our attachment styles are influenced by our childhood parent dynamics, romantic partner experiences, our self-esteem, and sense of self. The infinity loop. What are your attachment strategies that you are using to protect yourself? And how can you deepen that into getting into your vulnerable emotions and the needs that you have under those emotions? Balance me and we. Individuation, sense of self. Differentiation, appreciation for each other's sense of self. The more you can differentiate, the less that you insert yourself into your partner's story and into your partner's feelings or making them about you. It keeps the relational space or the couple bubble secure. The couple bubble means that you're on the same side. For communication strategies, notice timing, use I statements, the thought I'm having and the story I'm telling myself. Send a responsibility. Is it clear, honest, kind, and necessary? And active listening. Be genuinely curious. Tell me more about that. What I'm hearing you say is, I'm so interested in this. Hope this is helpful. And if there are other topics or things that you want to cover, seriously, shoot me an Instagram DM. I'm going to be more active on the gram. Other housekeeping things. I have a really exciting project coming up with Dr. Lori Husband. And I have a favor to ask of all of my single and dating listeners. Shoot me an email, info@theprocknoun.com, or an Instagram DM. What are the challenges in dating that you're experiencing currently? I want to know all of your dating stories. I want to know if you're using apps. I want to know if you're meeting in the wild. I want to know if you're going to events. Tell me what your experiences are and what you're personally struggling with in the dating experiences. And that's about it. So I hope to hear from you. And be well, stay connected. I will see you next time.